There should be no federal involvement in curriculum content or standards, for sure, directly or indirectly.
Kids are learning to the test, and the second the test is over, they forget what they've learned. That's a very different thing than growing up being inspired by the joy of learning.
6 Republican candidates for POTUS, 6 current and former governors, for the most part, all gathered today in New Hampshire to deal with the one issue no one seems willing to address: the fact America's education system is failing kids of every color and every race. We're becoming a dumber nation every single day. And to avoid dealing with the rebuilding of our school system will ensure we are the idiocracy nation in no time. So let's dive inside the Beltway and see what, if anything, is being done to rectify this situation. Welcome back to Newsmax chief Washington correspondent, the man who cuts through the political flotsam and jetsam. John Gizzi joins us on the show. John, always a pleasure to talk to you, my friend. We just heard these sound bites coming from a summit that is hosted by Campbell Brown, the former CNN anchor. She hosted this today, talking about K through 12 education. John, this is wonderful. We had Campbell Brown on the show yesterday. I think this needs to be done. But why is it that for the last several political cycles, the last few election cycles, education seems to be one of the last things anybody wants to touch, get near, or deal with, and we're becoming a dumber nation, as I said?
Well, because of the complexity of the issue and the state versus federal involvement in education, many candidates appear to believe it's just not worth trying to explain to voters. Now, there's been 2 significant changes in this in the past 4 years. One is that the voucher system, that is giving parents vouchers to allow their children to go to private sectarian and non-sectarian schools as opposed to public schools, is growing by leaps and bounds. There's more than 39 states that have voucher programs at this point, over 80 different cities, and they continue to work. Second, many Republicans have discovered that by championing this, that is the one area they have to get into the African American community. Governor Rick Scott, for example, doubled his percentage of the African American vote, 6 to 12%. He supported vouchers. His opponents didn't. Leaders of the black clergy reminded their parishioners of this, and he won by 1% of the vote. Go figure.
And I also want to point out, too, that you wrote about the voucher issue. It's now available. We can search for you. The article you wrote at Newsmax.com as well. Let's switch gears here. A couple of minutes we got left. A second Democratic senator said he will not support the Iran deal. Senator Menendez says no. The former chairman of the Senate Foreign Relations Committee promised to vote to override the veto, said it's going to hurt national security while abandoning the long-held policy of preventing nuclear proliferation. Here's what he said.
In essence, we thought the agreement would be rollback for rollback. You roll back your infrastructure, and we'll roll back our sanctions. And at the end of the day, what we appear to have is a rollback of sanctions, and Iran only limiting its capability, but not dismantling or rolling it back.
All right. Now, John, this is all well and good because Menendez is now out. Chuck Schumer has said that he will go against it. But again, with all this, are we creating any sort of a groundswell here that could overcome a veto, that could actually quash this Iran deal? Or is every time we talk about this, we're just kidding ourselves? It's a fait accompli.
Okay, as an old nose counter of votes in the House and Senate, 2/3 of the members of each House of Congress are needed to override a presidential veto of maintaining sanctions. That means, assuming every Republican votes for it in the House, 43 Democrats are needed to cross over. If all 54 Republicans vote for it in the Senate, 13 Democrats are needed. So it's 2 down, 11 to go for the opposition. Can they reach it? I can't say. And as Casey Stengel used to say, never make predictions, especially about the future. I will say Congresswoman Barbara Comstock of Northern Virginia told this reporter that she doesn't have to have town meetings or speak at Rotary clubs in her district. People come up to her and tell her it's a bad deal and please don't do it. That may well be the Republican silver bullet in the effort to stop this deal, the voice of the people that lawmakers are hearing as they visit their constituents back home before coming back to Washington September 1st.
20 seconds, very quickly. Business Insider lists 5 Democrats who could kill the deal. Ben Cardin, Joe Manchin, Claire McCaskill, Chris Coons, and Michael Bennet. Very quickly, do you see any of those Democrats, in your opinion, going against the deal?
Yes, I see Bennett going against it because he's one of the Democrats who faces a very difficult reelection. I've talked to Senator Coons of Delaware many times. He's intellectually honest, and he's listening to people. Manchin fellow travels with Republicans on many issues. It would make sense for him to go this way. The other two, stay tuned.
All right, and don't forget, go to Newsmax.com, catch the latest from John Gizzi, because he talks to the people, doesn't just listen, he talks to them. John, always a pleasure, my friend. Thanks so much. We'll talk to you soon. Next up, remember Obamacare? Care to guess how many POTUS candidates have real alternatives to it? Next, right here on The Hardline.